All right, everybody, welcome back to another episode of CJ and Fitz Show. I'm Fitz. This is Evan, and we're talking about Super Bowl 56. So what do you think?
Oh man,
yeah, I know. So I don't know. It's been a couple. We missed last week's show. Following the championships games, but just to kind of touch base on them, or just to touch base on the playoffs in general. I think this is like the most exciting. Yes, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I think this has been hands down like the best playoff season that I can remember, really since I've been a fan. I didn't think I thought everything was really well balanced. I didn't think there was one powerhouse to the other, So,
Nope. I mean, you saw the dueling that happens between all the great, the teams that are really pushing for it. You saw a lot of the teams that did lose, some of the weaknesses that they demonstrated over the season.
Right.
So you saw a lot of those things kind of come to light, which obviously leads into the offseason, how they're going to address those. But in reality, this has turned out to be one of the best playoffs. I'm so excited for the Super Bowl. I'm beyond excited.
Oh yeah, no, I hear you. Like, yeah, I mean, it was like, I think just to kind of solidify the fact that these playoffs were so close. I mean, there was just heartbreakers all around. You know what I mean? It really was like, 3-second field goals, punt block. You got. I mean, just we're gonna be talking about the Bengals here in a little bit, but like, the Bengals gave up 9 sacks against Tennessee. You know what I mean? Yeah, gave up 9 sacks. Still come out on top. Tannehill throws 3 picks. I don't even think Tannehill threw like 3 picks all year. You know what I mean? Like it's
right. You saw that huge. It's so funny to see it too. How home field advantage meant almost jack squat. It seemed like.
Yeah.
Especially through the on the divisional side and everything, but it was just kind of surprising to me how. I don't even know how to describe it. Like you've just got how the way they played out and everything in each game. It was almost one of the more unpredictable playoffs. But at the same time, if you really obviously hindsight's 20/20.
Right.
If you look back at it, it's like, oh man, that's obviously what the issues were. This is what happened here. I mean, nobody really has Patrick Mahomes kind of. I wouldn't say choking, but there were some moments where you were not Mahomish. If that's a word that can be used.
That is now going to be. That is
yeah. It just you saw some moments and
Webster, you heard it here first.
This is so not Mahomish.
I love it, man.
You could take him in so many different directions with that word too. But it ends up being the two teams that were peaking at the right time. We always hear that stupid thing like, when are you peaking? Peaking at the right time. But aside from Rams losing to San Francisco going into the playoffs, I don't know what all that that whole thing could be debated on. But they were starting to get into their groove at this right time, and just didn't give up. They were just nonstop pushing, getting at it. Showing the heart that you need to have to be in the playoffs. As a Cowboy fan, I know how to identify when there's heart because I'm used to not seeing it.
Week 17 against Kansas City, the Bengals marched down and they win 34-31, right? Like they needed that game. They needed that game to win their division and to really lock up that playoff spot, right? Because if they don't win that game, well then Pittsburgh's not sitting in the wild card. Pittsburgh's now sitting in the 4 seed. Pittsburgh's sitting in the 4 seed, like, and it's just, and that was, so you're talking about getting hot at the right time, right? Like, boom.
Mm-hmm.
That was it. Like, that was an absolute defining moment for the Bengals, and they did. They carried that with them throughout. I mean, every game that they played in these playoffs was close. Maybe besides the Raiders game. But no, the Raiders...
No, the Raiders. It came down to
the Raiders fought.
They had the chance,
and so yeah, I'm among Super Bowls in the history or in the past, say the last decade or so. This is probably the most exciting one.
Yeah.
You got the journeyman, not even journey. You can't call him a journeyman. I'm sorry, that was wrong of me. You got you got Matt Stafford, right, who's just played his ass off his whole career, and it one season with a decent team, a really well team, a well coached team.
Oh yeah.
You know, and then you got Joey Burrow, Joey B. I don't even know. I don't even know what who. I don't even know what Who Day Nation is calling him. I don't know what his nickname is.
Me either. I think last week I gave him. I don't even know what I called him. I gave him something because he's just so calm and confident. He's just chill.
Right. So like
Cool Hand Joe. He's just
Cool Hand
he doesn't
Joe.
he doesn't get rattled. It seems like
No, I mean, like look
even
at him,
after getting hit 9 times.
look at him in the just in his pressers. You know what I mean? Like he's just very, just cool, calm, and collective. Like you said, like it's not. There's really no emotion coming out of him. I mean, it makes you
Except
wonder,
for maybe some. He's got some not cockiness, the confidence, but that's the requirement to have that that
right.
calmness too.
So then there's like kind of telling the difference, or like being able to tell the difference between the two, confidence versus cockiness, right?
Right.
Like if the kid was cocky and he wasn't, or if he was confident and he wasn't playing well, you would almost kind of want to call him cocky. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It's kind of that two-way street.
Right.
I guess where people will be like, "Well, you're not playing well, but you still have this ego about you."
Exactly.
You can assign it, however. It is a form of cockiness. It's just
egotistical.
it's warranted. When it's warranted, it kind of gets put in as confidence instead of cockiness.
Right. So, I mean, all right, so, man, I
don't even know what we're talking about right now.
That's it, right? That's the fun of this, right?
Yeah.
Because you got Matt Stafford, right? This quarterback that, we've all known for years. He's had great receivers like Calvin Johnson, and he's had moments of where you're like, oh my God, he's going to turn Detroit around. Like, Detroit's going to be relevant. And then it's like, they're not.
And then the draft happens.
And then the draft happens, right? I swear, right before they drafted Matt Stafford, I'm almost confident that they had drafted 4 wide receivers, like, in a row in the first round.
I don't know, but I could see it.
It was like, boom, they hit on Calvin Johnson, and then they go and get Matt Stafford. And, I mean, if we're really getting it, I almost feel bad for Calvin Johnson at this point, because he didn't really have an opportunity to get he didn't get out of there, right?
Right.
He didn't get out of it.
I mean, he had Stafford, which that worked perfectly for him, and it is great. And Stafford had Calvin Johnson. It's just the team that was around him, which now, any Detroit fans watching or listening, your office, in my opinion, is making some stellar decisions, because between you've got Amon-Ra St. Brown is outstanding. I loved him coming out of college. And Swift is clearly, he's going to be a beast if we can stay on the right track health-wise. And what they're building around is hopefully they make just the choice. I'm getting into a different offseason thing, but hopefully they make the choice to wait on the quarterback for next year.
Right.
That's when they need to jump on that quarterback. Not this draft, the next draft. But
yeah, I mean, you got T.J. Hawkinson, right? And then
yeah, I mean TJ, they've been outstanding on the offensive side and defensive. Their defense is,
I swear by their front
so
four.
underrated.
I swear by their front four. Detroit's front four is going to be what I think everyone thought the Washington Commanders.
That happened.
That happened, yes. What the Washington Commanders defensive line was supposed to be this year. So Detroit is definitely on the up and up, even though we're talking about Super Bowl 56 here, guys.
Just some The scenic route. That's all it is.
The
Clearly,
scenic
the
route.
lifestyle I take really prefers the scenic route.
Well, I
Which
mean,
today's scenery is brought to you by the great hills of Texas, by the way.
oh, okay.
The hill country of Texas.
The
I'll
hi-
keep y'all updated as to where I'm going.
I love it. I love it. I'm not in my mother's basement. This is my basement. I own this basement, but it's still a basement. So,
Oh man.
oh man,
It's a space of your own. You don't have to call it a basement. It's just a space of your own.
it is.
It's right there.
So that was like, man, we're getting way off topic, but I love it.
Hey, bam,
You know,
Bengals, Stafford. There's a game happening apparently.
Well, I had to tell you about this space real quick, right? Because you.
Oh yeah.
So, the deal was, so my wife and I, we were looking for a new house. We got this house, you know, it's 2-story, 3-bedroom, you know, and we had this basement, and I was just like, I don't care what the house looks like, what we do, as long as you love it. I was like, I need an 8x8 cubicle, pretty much, and that's what I did. So this is a little 8x8 office space that I created for this show and for work and etc. And it's awesome. I love it. I call it my office.
Heck yeah.
You know. So all right, Bengals Rams. Super Bowl.
The small thing is the life. That's what matters. 8x8 space.
We're back. All right.
Stafford, Rams, yes. And what you were mentioning, I was wanting to get over to that. You were mentioning how he had, I mean, pretty much Calvin Johnson, but just a plethora of the guys that could fill in or like be seen as like the second tier guys for a lot of other teams. Now, clearly, you had Cooper Kupp, the number one wide receiver in the NFL. You've got OBJ starting, as much as I was hesitant on him going into the playoffs. He has started to show where he's drawing the attention, he's looking happy, and that's like 90% of his need. As long as he's happy, he's going to play. If he's disgruntled at all, that's when you start seeing those kind of, the laziness in the routes and everything. But he's clearly happy and enjoying it, and with him and Van Jefferson, they have a really, really, really good. And then Robert Woods comes back next year. They're going to be freaking outstanding.
I know. So and you got Tyler Higbee too, right? Higbee's.
Yeah.
You know,
so hopefully he'll be able to play. I heard that he's iffy.
Well, so you brought up OBJ, and I kind of want to. So I had a really interesting take. It's kind of I don't want to call it a hot take, right? It's not a hot take. It's just an interesting take, and it's almost like. Now hear me out, and I don't mean this in any sort of demeanor or etc. Like it's almost like OBJ found his role as a number 2 receiver. Right? It's almost like, so I feel like, and this is just, this is a very broad take here, in no means so am I targeting one specific wide receiver, etc. But with the number 1 receiver on any team, there always seems to become this ego with it, right? The superstar mentality that, like, I'm the number 1, I need to be the best, yada, yada, yada. I almost wonder if, like, in his youth and early on with the Giants, like, maybe that was, like, maybe that's what was happening. Like, maybe this guy has been meant to be a number 2 the whole time. Like, because you kind of take that
just on the mentality side of things.
Yeah, mentality. You take that spotlight off of him, right? Like, we know he's still there. Everyone still knows that he's still there, but you take the spotlight off of him, right? And now it's like, oh, not only is OBJ like there, but like nobody's talking about him either. You know what I mean? So now it's like, just let the guy play football. And
he's starting to get that. You hear him on all the other sports stuff, getting kind of that recognition and notoriety on there. It'll be interesting to see how next year goes. I think the way that he's kind of come into this new team midway through, where he, like you said, Cooper Kupp is nobody can debate he's the number 1 guy on the team. So there is no debate there, like you said. So he's kind of found his little, and just the timing of Woods going down and he coming in to take that number 2
Right.
area where the attention isn't on him, but he can still make and burn you, make the crazy plays, and be what OBJ is.
Right.
I'd be interested to see how that pans out.
And like Cooper Cup, I love Cooper Cup's story, right? He's third round pick. He comes out of a small college, Northwest. Northwest College. I think it was. It wasn't Wazoo. It was. Was it Wazoo?
That you've got me on that one.
All
I
right.
actually don't know where he came from.
Please stand by for this quick intermission.
Well, we do some data search.
I know it's a small school. Like, he was a third round pick, but I just love the idea that education, Eastern Washington University. Okay.
Eastern Washington. Okay.
Right, exactly. Eastern Washington, right? So like, I don't even know what conference this is in. You would think that it's the Pac-12, but
Oh no, it's I don't even know. It may not even be on the Division 1 side of things.
right. So,
But he's that guy that's. I mean, he's taken the years to develop and come into his role as what he is, and clearly get to where he is, and just come in like an OBJ
right.
with that talent, and just right off the bat, like, dude, he's going to pump in like a Jamar Chase, the number 1. He's put that kind of grind in and figured out his niche and discovered who he is as a receiver.
Right. It's very Adam Thielen-esque, right? So like Adam Thielen worked his way through the practice squad. He was a D2. He played Division 2 right there in Minnesota. Like, he happened to get an invite to training camp. You know what I mean? And then like, boom, he emerges as like this premier receiver with, with a number 1 next to him, right? So Stephon Diggs, now it's Justin Jefferson. Like, I don't know. Those kind of guys, like the ones that really put the work in and emerge on top, and like not only like, not saying that everybody doesn't put the work in. You get what I'm saying, though, right? Like, the grind, right? Like the real like practice.
It's not the matter of putting the work in; it's a matter of them sticking to it.
Yes,
because everybody has to stick to it. But when you're in that kind of iffy, washy area where you're like, this guy isn't going to make it, man, let's throw him an invite type thing. Yeah, you're just sticking to it because you have that drive.
I mean, and then the connection that Stafford and Kupp developed in one season, right?
Yeah.
So it's really, it's awesome, man, and you're excited, and I regret trading him in my fantasy football league. Like, sorry, I went there. I had to go there.
Yeah, it's the time of the year for fantasy football regrets. Unless you're in a dynasty league, this is the time of year for rebuild and forget about last year.
So hear me out. I traded Cooper Kupp for Christian McCaffrey, who was on IR at the time, and Stephon Diggs. Like, I still think I still think I won. It's for like a dynasty league, right? So I might have won next year. I'm sure the hell
right?
I'm sure the hell didn't win this year. But
no. Shoot, Stephon Diggs kind of putting him in there. That's a perfectly fine stopgap because I mean, in the year next year, I mean, he was last year's number 1 wide receiver.
Right.
So Cooper Kupp's this year's. Next year, you know what it'll be next year. But yeah, no fault to you on that one. I don't blame you.
So
with the Bengals, so we've got the Rams here, kind of well covered. What are your thoughts on? Because I know who I'm already picking to win it. My thoughts on who to win this, but what are your thoughts on just a lot of the people saying inexperience coming in? Obviously, Rams having Matthew Stafford hasn't been in there, but it's just the youth in general on that offense and the inexperience that the team has in the playoffs, but the youth that they have all around them, just NFL experience-wise. Like, do you think that's going to be a hindering factor, or do you think it's almost like that, where that blissfully unaware. He's like, man, I don't know what's going on, but I know I'm freaking at the Super Bowl, and we're gonna be playing like crazy because this is just a crazy roller coaster we're enjoying.
Absolutely. That right there. I just
That
think,
one. Okay,
yep.
I thought you were about to give me a.
No. I mean, so it's not the some of these guys have played on big stages before. You know what I mean? Joe Burrow, college national championship. Jamar Chase, national championship.
He was there for that. Yeah,
Yeah,
he was there for that. Yeah.
So, yeah, man. Like, I don't think it's too big for them, and I don't think
T. Higgins national championship.
Yes, Clemson. Right.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, like, I don't really think. I think what it comes down to, I think where inexperience matters is coaching. Right? So, like, players are going to go out and play. Zach Taylor he's a new coach. Sean McVay's been there now. You know what I mean? He's been there, what?
Seems like forever, but I think it's like.
Well, no, I mean, like, to the Super Bowl. Like,
okay.
So they lost in the 13-10 game against New England, right? Jared Goff,
Yeah.
Tom Brady. It was a great defensive matchup. I wouldn't necessarily say it was the most exciting game I've ever watched.
Nah.
But yeah, I think inexperience just matters in coaching, right? And you're talking inexperience. I mean, let's talk experience, right? So you got Aaron Donald's been there before. Von Miller, Super Bowl MVP. You know what I mean? Like, defensive wise, right? So it's a matter of. I think it's really a matter. I think it's going to come down to coaching, man. Like, who's going to coach better? Who's going to go for it on 4th and 2? You know what I mean? Like,
right.
That's what like who's going to elect the punt? Who's going to choose to go for it on 4th and 2? And like with the youth and the explosiveness that the Bengals have, I'm hoping Zach Taylor is the one that does. You know what I mean? I do. I hope he decides to pull the trigger. And their defense, like the Bengals' defense is playing great. I mean, you can almost chalk it up as like they're in the Super Bowl now because of how well their defense is played here in the playoffs. You know?
Yeah.
So,
and they make the great adjustments and they stick to. They don't get rattled too crazy. I mean, the 2 games with Kansas City before the playoffs and then the last game, but. You can tell that they get punched in the mouth, and they already have a plan B.
Right.
And plan B is just keep going. They know what they're doing.
Punch them back.
They're not. Yeah, yeah. With a Tyson, everybody has a plan to get punched in the mouth or the face, whatever that is. They already know it's like, hey, we're just going to keep going with it, and they really do just lock down, have that confidence, kind of that confidence we were talking about with Joe Burrow, where they can just keep going forward and know that, hey, if we keep doing what we know we can do, we're going to stop them.
Right.
Like, and they also have that, they don't have the, they don't seem to get bewildered or frustrated or like phased by those situations. Being 21 down, going into, you're in the championship, you're like, man, should we rethink it? They made some adjustments.
Right.
But it wasn't like anything, they didn't ever look like they were sitting on that sideline with their heads down or going to the halftime locker room, like having guys pissed off on the side or like looking gloomy. It was just, we know what we're doing. We're going to keep going with it. And that's why I like them. That's why I like them a lot.
I'm really excited to see Jamar Chase versus Jalen Ramsey. But
That'll be so fun.
I personally don't think that Jalen Ramsey is this true shutdown corner. I think.
Yeah. I'm there with you. I like him a lot. He's not like.
I love his intensity. I love the way that he plays the position. Super physical. Talk smack. Like, I love all that stuff, dude. Get in their head. but I don't think he's this true shutdown corner. You know what I mean? I really don't. And
He's more of a presence to me,
yeah,
and
exactly, exactly.
he's like you said, he's not that shutdown. He doesn't have his own Revis Island set up. But it's all kind of like knowing your range too. Like with Trayvon Diggs, Cowboys, like he's a ball hawk and he's gonna go for it. He's also gonna give up the 60-yard touchdown.
Yeah,
Like, and so Ramsey, he's just that. He's that presence, like you said, that mental, just going to get in there, talk smack that's going to annoy you, and you're going to want to punch him, and then get that flag or whatever it is.
right.
And he is that person, and he makes it work for him really well. He's freaking outstanding at it.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean.
So I agree with you 100%.
So yeah, I'm just as far as I mean I touched on the coaching, right, and I truly stand by that. Like I think it's just going to come down to who is the better coach on this day, but I do fear for Joe Burrow in that offensive line against that defensive line, right? And then state the obvious type thing, like
Yeah, but it's the elephant in the room type thing.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
you have to address it.
So and then I mean, what do? And they're the type of offense like if you bring in that extra blocker, well then you take away one dynamic from that offense. You know what I mean? Like you leave Joe Mixon in there to pick up the blitz or pick up the extra block. Like, well, Joe Mixon is dynamic when he gets the ball in his hand outside the pocket. Or like Joe Mixon is just really dynamic, and I'm actually really stoked for him. And I think Giovanni Bernard leaving Cincinnati was one of the best decisions they could have done. Honestly, he was always kind of in that shadow, splitting reps, etc. Like Joe Mixon is awesome, man. Like
he is outstanding.
But I mean, on the flip side too, Cam Akers came back at like just the right time, dude. Like.
You see how many freaking carries they gave him?
Oh my god! But did you see? Nobody could stop him.
No, yeah, he's doing what he's doing. Like he needs to do. It's gonna be.
He was hitting the hole so hard and so fast and lowering his shoulder, dude, and just getting physical and dirty. And I love it. I love that style of running, man. Like.
That's what I was so looking forward to him coming out of Florida State. It was one of those things because he came out with a really good running back class, like outstanding running back class. So he got lost in the fold with Jonathan Taylor, J.K. Dobbins. You had Antonio Gibson coming out, DeAndre Swift,
right? And
he was kind of in that. Keyshawn Vaughn was in there, and he was kind of lumped in that Keyshawn Vaughn area with a lot of people. Some people put him on that next tier, but it was all about how is he going to bring that level because he was physical, and you bring that physicalness to the NFL. The next linebacker is just as physical as you. So how is that going to wear?
So like physicality
and
doesn't
he
always
is
translate. So.
Yeah, and it can, but if you're how you handle it, and with his burst, he's honestly like some of the running he's got, not the jukey physicalness, but he really does have like when Zeke kind of came out, just disregard for his body, just going in lower and get at it.
Yeah. Very
much that feel, and it's scary how good he could be with it. Especially with everything around him, you have to guard everybody else. You can't focus on that run. So,
and as
that's their key.
So I was gonna say, like Cincinnati kind of has. I don't think Cincinnati really has this physical defense. They have an extremely athletic defense, right? So there's always, and you see teams all around the league doing this, right? So you either got teams that are extremely physical. They'll probably give up big plays. Or you got these extremely athletic defenses, right? That are kind of lacking that size, physicality, and they might not give up big plays, but they give up big chunks, right? Like the broken yards after catch type thing, right? Like,
right.
So it's like I don't think there's one defense in the league that's like split right down the middle. That's just all around this perfect defense that's physical and athletic. Like granted, like they're all athletes.
God, yeah, it's just a matter of
I have to justify everything I say.
Oh, I think you just need to take a shot. Don't even worry about it. Just,
I thought about
I mean, I'm doing it clearly over here. So
it.
yeah, it's. I mean, what you're saying is absolutely correct. That's to me there, and I don't know. We'll segue into the whole all right, who do we have type thing, in the game. That's to me the biggest variable for the Bengals because I am taking them to win it, but it's really going to come down to what you mentioned, Joe Mixon's explosiveness, because I think that's going to be a very, very important thing for them to keep that rush from happening. That rush will happen, but they can just use him out there or slow it down with any kind of play action. They're going to have to figure that out because they didn't fix it again since against Kansas City.
Right.
They just kind of maneuvered around it. I mean, Joe Burrow made some stupid plays. What was the one where he did the freaking Madden little high jump? It looked like he literally pushed the Y button and just jumped himself out of that sack.
Yeah, and then he ran for the first down.
Yeah, you can't rely on that, especially with the Rams because they have that speed.
Yeah.
To cover it. So that's going to be the biggest thing for me is how they're able to counter it with Joe Mixon. But then what you said, and honestly, they're talking. I don't know if they're going to get Darrell Henderson back. They're talking about him possibly doing something. I don't know, but just Cam Akers and their defense being able to mitigate that part, so they don't have to sit in that hesitation of like, oh shoot, to allow them to be set up for those play actions.
Right.
So if they allow themselves to get set up in that play action window, Cooper will eat them up, let alone all the other receivers they have.
Yeah. So
I threw a whole bunch of
I'm like
mess out there all at one time.
Well, you threw your pick out there.
Yeah. And I saw we've been on here for 30 minutes. I thought it was about a good time.
Yeah, no, I mean I hear you, and I'm like I want to counter, and I don't want to counter, and like honestly, for me, it just comes down to I want something new, right? I love when a new franchise wins the Super Bowl. You know what I mean? Like I would love for Cincinnati to win the Super Bowl just because they never won it before.
Yeah.
At the same time, I would love Matt Stafford to win it because I think that would solidify a Hall of Fame for him. You know what I mean? Which I think he belongs in. I think he does belong in the Hall of Fame. So it's like,
I agree. Yeah.
You know, like.
But you got to put your wants aside over here. You got to put down what you feel is right, not your wants and desires over here.
So what I feel is right is I feel like the Rams are a more complete team, and I think we've hit on it a million times now, and I think Cam Akers is, or just the run game in general is the ticket here for the Rams. You know, I really do.
Yeah,
and then
it has blossomed.
Yeah, and then you brought it in too. Like open up the play action pass, man. Like,
yeah, if we were talking about a Sony Michel Henderson like combo, that still has that potential. But I'm not really like with Cincinnati's defense. I wouldn't be too like on their side stressed about it. That's where, to me, that the biggest window is the Cam Akers physicality wearing them down. Clearly can handle the ball 25 plus times in a game,
and Sean
and no
McVay
issues.
Loves to run the football, man. He loves play action. I mean, look what he did with Todd Gurley for years. You know what I mean? And Jared Goff. I don't want to say that he thrived, but Jared Goff was successful with play action. You know, so
yeah.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna go with my gut here, and I think it's gonna be the Rams.
I can't even blame you on those.
You know,
I think period it's going to be a good game.
I
think it's going to be
close.
close.
I mean the line on it is 4.5.
I haven't even looked at that. Oh, is it for the
Yeah,
Rams?
4.5. Yeah, for the Rams. Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
So, but like as far as betting wise, like it's really no good bets on it. Like it's a really like Vegas has it pretty close.
When,
You know, like
when in doubt, just go with what the Simpsons predicted.
34-31
Yeah,
Bengals, right?
just go for it. Just go.
Yes.
Just put a $10 bet on the exact score, and if that's the case, I mean, come on.
I'm going.
I don't even know if you get the exact score payout. That's got to be massive.
I want to so bad, dude. I want to throw $100 right now. 34-31 Bengals. I mean, when have the Simpsons ever been wrong?
Right? It's pretty good batting average they have going on. Man.
So some other news around the league. We got some coach hirings this past week or whatever. Just the kind of, I don't know. I mean, we'll jump more into this, I think, when we start really diving into the off season. But I just kind of want to hit on it a little bit.
Yeah. I know some of the moves. I'm not too versed on them as of yet, because, like you said, off season. But they have made some. Seems like there have been made some interesting acquisitions.
So I'm gonna talk to. So like, let's just. I don't think it's been talked about enough through just kind of the mainstream media. Like, Josh McDaniels leaving New England to go to Las Vegas. I just kind of I thought that he was like the next in line for the throne type thing. You know what I mean? He had turned down the Colts job a few years ago. I just thought that he was, like I said, the next in line for the throne, and
he clearly just wants to either be New England or the AFC West. That's it.
Yeah,
or AFC. Shoot, Broncos.
AFC West, you're right.
And AFC West, yeah. Yeah, it's clearly his two preferences.
So, to me, that was a surprising hire. It was more surprising than the fact that he left than it really is surprising that the Raiders hired him. I'm excited. So, Doug Peterson's coming back in, right? So Doug Peterson advocate here. I thought he was absolutely robbed over there in Philadelphia. The whole, ownership. I feel like ownership just has way too much power sometimes. I get it.
I mean, yeah. They control the purse.
Right. So, I get it. They're the owners. Fair enough. That, that makes sense. But I just don't like the whole, hiring somebody and then, not letting the job, or not seeing the job through. You know what I mean? I don't like, Doug Peterson didn't even have an opportunity to correct the actions. So, boom, they win the Super Bowl against New England with Nick Foles. Carson Wentz is hurt. Carson Wentz comes back. Carson Wentz is playing bad. We draft Jalen Hurts. Ownership's I want to start Jalen Hurts. Doug Peterson, you're out. You know what I mean? That was a span of that's a span of 3 years, right?
3 years. Yeah.
3 years. So 2 years outside of winning the Super Bowl, you're gone as a head coach.
You're gone. Yeah.
It's a head scratcher, man. You didn't even give an opportunity to correct the action.
Right.
And to me, that stuff just irks me, But then,
and it also it makes you also wonder, what's obviously we'll never know unless you're that fly on the wall,
right?
What's going on behind the scenes, text messages, calls, emails, all these different things that are happening that are who knows? I don't care. I hate. Maybe he was pissed off that they drafted Jalen Hurts, and they're like, well, Carson's my man. What, you never know what exactly is going on with it, but I agree with you. And I kind of take that the coaching mindset when it comes to college too, where it's you hire somebody in there. NFL is a little bit slower to change. It takes longer to build that team up. Yeah. College, you can recruit. You could have 2 good recruiting classes and have it just, oh my gosh, we're all of a sudden in the top 10. That's outstanding. But even there, you have to stick with somebody for a set timeline. the moment you put like, all right, hey, um, you know what, you're kind of on a hot seat now, out of nowhere. That's not a way to see the improvement for your franchise. Period.
Right.
Stick with that time frame, because you never know if you came to me as obviously no coaching by any means, but my mentality is if you come to me, sign like a 4-year agreement, like all right, well, my goal is to start winning as soon as possible, but I'm also looking at this like, all right, how can I make this team the best possible in like 3 to 4 years,
Right.
and just span it out.
So I think like you hit the nail on the head. So like earlier in the season, we had a viewer that brought up Urban Meyer, right? And this is before all the extra stuff happened with Urban Meyer. It was
Hmm.
simply Urban Meyer as a coach of the Jacksonville Jaguars, right? And CJ and I were like think about it, man. So like you hit the nail. You have the NFL, right? And you have X amount of talent in the NFL, and they say that the best players in college make it to the NFL, right? And then you have college. You have an entire roster full of 4-star, 5-star recruits, right? The
Hmm.
turnover in college versus NFL is, I mean, it's complete. It's fire and ice. You know what I mean? Like
Hmm.
it is. You have, I mean, in Alabama is a sure example of this, right? Every single year they are, a top 4 team. They're playing in the college playoff, and it's because they're getting all the recruits. And I mean, but like here in the NFL, well, you only have 7 rounds to draft. You have a salary cap. You can only bring in X amount of players, and you got to get these guys to like work together and play together. And I mean, it's just totally like 2 different worlds, and that's why I
Hmm.
feel like you see guys like Urban Meyer, even Nick Saban when he was the head coach for the Miami Dolphins, right? Nick Saban goes from
Yeah.
LSU to Miami to Alabama, right? Like he's like, there's the NFL. Let me taste it. I'm out of here. Like
Yeah.
like he wants to win, and I get it. I'm not taking away anything. I'm not saying these college football coaches can't coach, but I think you need like
Completely different. It's completely
it
different.
does. Like
It's football, still football, but the acquisition, the, I mean, the players that you're coaching, you got full grown millionaire. Some players getting paid way more than you are, men, compared to kids that are playing their hearts out because 88%, 90, depending on which school, 90+% of the guys on that team aren't going pro. This is their top moment. This is where they want to shine.
right.
Unless you're Saban, where almost like half your team freaking goes pro every
I
year.
mean, that's right.
But like, yeah, but like that's so it's completely different. So you have to have these different styles and mentalities and approaches.
Yeah,
Um,
and like
and it does seem like there's some of these NFL, um, like you said, owners that have the "What have you done for me lately?" mentality,
right.
and some of it's warranted. You look at the coaching, and there's coaching hires. I'm like, how are they still getting jobs in these spots? But and then 2 years later, like, all right, they're gone again. It's like, all right, called that. Like, who knew that one was coming? Um,
So
but then there's other ones where you're like kind of baffled. You're confused because it's like, oh well, you're not doing what I want you to do exactly right now, either win or lose after all that fiasco
right.
came
So
out.
like to your point, the Houston Texans, who have been an absolute just debacle since the year that they came in as an expansion team, they turn around and they hire Lovie Smith. Lovie Smith, very respectable person in the league. Good defensive coordinator, right? He's been a head coach. He was the head coach for the Bears. He was the head coach for the Buccaneers.
Buccaneers, yep.
And now you hire him as your head coach. And I mean, I feel like you need to implement change at this point, right? Like something has to happen. Either is your GM the one that's hiring the coach? Is the ownership hiring the coach? Like I just like I have all the respect in the world for Lovie Smith and the success that he's had in this league as a coordinator. but he's also has had zero success as a head coach. And I feel like
Yeah.
Houston's just setting themselves up for another year of, oh, it's Sunday. We're playing the Houston Texans. You know what I mean? Like nobody fears them, dude. Nobody.
Right.
Nobody fears them whatsoever. So,
And there is a ton of recycling that goes through in the NFL. We see it. I mean, on so many different teams.
yeah.
You just have a lot of this recycling. And wherever he went, he did. His defenses were, as a head coach, his defenses were outstanding. They're
Right.
awesome. They played. They did because that was what he knows in his specialty. Great on there. So I feel like there's this. There's not always the correlation of whenever you're a great or really good blank coordinator, you're going to transfer as a head coach.
Yeah.
That's just.
And then I also
Obviously, you won't know until you try. Somebody has to give you a swing and a try at it, but which is obviously what the guy from San Francisco. Where's he the coach now?
Mike. It's Mike McDaniel.
Is that Miami?
Miami. He's the head coach of Miami now.
Yeah.
Right. So he's coming off of that Kyle Shanahan tree, which is coming off of Kyle Shanahan is coming off of. I don't even know, Gruden tree.
Yeah, I get lost with it, honestly.
I mean, like obviously at like one point, man, most of these coaches have all been either.
If it's the recycled league, you're going to be tied to somebody at one point.
So
yeah.
But then you have a guy like this, and this is just to me a mind-blowing hire. Nathaniel Hackett, hired by the Broncos, right? So, to break it all down for you, right? I know Nate Hackett. I mean, I don't know him, but I know him as a coach very well. Bills hired Doug Marrone. Wow, not Monroe. Doug Marrone. Nate Hackett, offense coordinator. Bills offense looks atrocious. Doug Marrone goes down to Jacksonville. Nate Hackett comes with him. Offensive coordinator for Blake Bortles. They go to it's the 1 year that Jacksonville goes to the AFC Championship, right? They have Blake Bortles. I'm trying to remember their other receivers. I think Robinson, right? They had Robinson and Allen Robinson, and I can't remember. Anyways, they were
Shoot. Yeah. Oh man, that's gonna be wrecking my brain now. That other guy there.
So he has one successful year as an offensive coordinator there, and then he goes to Green Bay. He's the offensive coordinator in Green Bay. Well, who's calling the plays in Green Bay? It's not Nate Hackett. It's Matt LaFleur, right?
Yeah.
So this is just it's one of those hires to me that just doesn't make sense at all. Because really, I mean, as a resume, I don't think this guy has a very impressive resume at all. And Denver is a team that's full of talent that nobody knows. Denver is full of talent, and each year you have this. So you have this kid that you draft second round, Drew Lock. Highly prospected coming out of college, has yet to been given a real opportunity, right? So you throw him in when you need him, but he's never really been given this opportunity. You have wide receivers
out the wazoo. Cortland Sutton, Jerry Jeudy.
Thank you.
KJ Hamler. Patrick, whatever his face is.
Tim Patrick, right? Isn't it
Tim Patrick, yeah.
Yes.
Tim Patrick.
So,
and then my freaking favorite running back that came out of this last class, Javonte Williams.
Absolutely.
Outstanding.
Noah Fant, right? Noah Fant's a big physical tight end, right? And I don't think I don't know. Maybe I'm all wrong about this. Maybe this guy finally calls his own plays. Maybe he's one of those head coaches that that calls plays, right? Andy Reid, Kyle Shanahan, like Matt LaFleur, like these guys all call their own offensive plays, and maybe he leaves the defensive coordinator. Like I personally have a lot of respect for those head coaches, right? Yes, you have the title of the head coach because you make the decisions on the field, but ultimately you let the defensive coordinator do his job because that's what you hired him for, and you're the one out there calling plays. I like those guys. That So, and then there's a few more hires, but another big Brian Dable hired for the Giants, right?
Yeah.
Brian Dable's given a lot of credit for Josh Allen's success over the years. Outstanding play caller, in my opinion. Knows how to utilize all of his guys. But I don't think Allen's success necessarily comes from Dable's play calling. I think Allen is slowly just matured into the person that the player that he is today. And it'll be interesting, right? And the Giants have a whole debacle. Players, they're talking about wanting to trade Saquon Barkley, even Kadarius Toney, who was a rookie this year, and you got Daniel Jones, who is just big old question marks.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
He's that whole area over there it's primed to be. It's primed to be a massive dumpster fire. It's to me. I'm trying to think of the best way to say that without cursing on here. But it's also they have the ability. They have the players. I have no clue, honestly. I'm still learning this whole thing a little bit. But
I might slip here or there. Then I don't know.
Well, then in that case, a shit show.
Yeah.
Because it's just like you said, they're bringing in a coach who I think personally is, I don't like saying riding the coattails because he's put in the work to get there, but it is, to me, Josh Allen was a talent coming out of there. He just had to develop in a few areas, and then he was going to be a freaking star. Yeah. And he's developed in those areas. Now you could give that attribute to the coaching, and obviously so because it would be required. But I feel like going from where he is, the situation in New York with Daniel Jones, he's not the future of that team.
Not at all.
You have some interesting pieces. You have, as much as I don't like to say it, he's a running back. He's reaching that expiring age where teams look at, all right, no, 4 years and you're done kind of thing. Like you're signing a new contract. You hit a cliff sometimes. It's not worth the money that we're going to put in. We'll just draft a new guy coming out of college who could maybe not do as much, but fill in the hole quite well.
Yes. I've heard it. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh, no. I was just pretty much ended up with, I feel like it's going to a spot where in 2 years, the next draft, that's when they're going to have to replace the Daniel Jones. It'll be a draft to do so if they're in that position. But now the leash might be so tight on what's his name? I'm drawing a blank.
Brian.
You just said it. Dable. The leash is going to be so tight on Dable, because after having a awful year, and then you have a rookie quarterback who's not going to do good for probably the first year. That's just where you get that continuous cycle of just going downhill.
Right.
Because, like you said, you never give that coach the 4 years to potentially build everything.
I think the New York Jets are a prime example of what you're talking about there, right? So they draft Darnold. Darnold battles, mono, and he's hurt, and all this stuff. Adam Gase is supposed to be this quarterback guru. Well, he really hasn't had a quarterback to really work with because his quarterback's been hurt or sick. And then, well, we're going to let Gase go. We're going to bring in this guy with a brand new rookie quarterback. And, obviously, I think we only saw one game from Zach Wilson that was like, okay.
Yeah.
There's something there, right? So, it's like, I don't know. I mean, I almost kind of feel like you got to – I almost wish there was some sort of bylaws in place where you gotta, you know, hey, I'm going to sign you for a 4-year deal as a head coach, and you do all, and you coach all 4 of those years. You know what I mean? And see what happens, right? Because year four, things could finally start to gel, and now as like an owner, I'm like, okay, let me give you an extension, or, like I don't know, I almost.
And there's this crazy. I can't attribute it. I don't know the exact person who did the research on it. It was actually a local radio station in Dallas. The Ticket. He had done this little pan back, and he had looked at coaches that are that get hired on that don't win a Super Bowl in their first 3 years. New coaches that don't win a Super Bowl in their first 3 years actually historically don't go on to win a Super Bowl, like with those teams.
Oh.
The only exceptions are coaches that were Super Bowl champions for other teams. So just say that whoever you want it with, you came over. Outside of those 3 years, they're the only coaches that'll actually win a Super Bowl outside of those 3 years, in the Super Bowl era, which is kind of crazy to think because you're a Super Bowl caliber coach. You come in, you'll win it 5 years later. I think Bill Cowher was an example of that.
Yeah.
And a few other ones. But then, so I have a feeling that there's a lot of these owners that have that mentality where it is, and who knows if that study is attributed to, oh well, those coaches are gone in 3 years because they didn't get a chance to do so,
yeah.
Or if that is attributed to the fact that, oh well, some of those coaches stayed there for 6-7 years and they still haven't won a Super Bowl. But it is a very interesting thing where it's almost like this universal 3-year window is kind of applied to every coach in the NFL.
Yeah.
And if you don't do it in that timeline, all right, well, you're gone, or you're not going to win it.
I don't know. I think it goes back to what we were talking about with like college, and it takes a special coach to be able to utilize I go back to like my high school football days, right? And like, granted, I played in a small school, but I hated having the same 11 guys playing offense or the same 11 guys playing defense, right? Like, not being able to utilize your guys, like not knowing how to use your guys. And it takes a special kind of coach to do that. And I think there's only a handful, and these are the ones that you're talking about that go on to coach for the same team for 7-8 years, etc. That like know how to do it and know how to get every use every guy and use them in the right situation and find the worth in each individual. So like, that was a really interesting.
I'm gonna have to find that, and I'll bring it next. It'd be a great off-season one to touch on because
for sure.
I remember listening to it and seeing it, and I'm like, what the heck? But it didn't. It just apply. It was weird how it applied to like other sports too, like the years. It was really weird. But I'll definitely have to share that because it's off-season material for sure.
Oh yeah.
Oh man.
Yeah. Look at that, man. All right.
Yeah, I know. I was about to say that pretty much brings us to wait and see what's going on with the Super Bowl.
Yeah. Go ahead, man. Close us out.
Oh man. All right. Well, this is my first ever closeout, so I appreciate passing this torch over here to me. I appreciate everybody listening or watching in the future. Definitely check us out and subscribe, like whatever you do on YouTube. If you want to listen to us again, we're here every Wednesday. We'll be bringing some more fun content. Everyday man talk. Guys just talking football, whatever it is. But bring it interesting for you guys, and come up with some more fun engagements for everybody. I really appreciate everyone listening.
Yeah.
Deuces.
Thanks for tuning in, and catch us here next Wednesday, 8 p.m. Eastern time. And hopefully we have a really exciting Super Bowl at hand. So I can't wait to cover it next week.
100% chance of one of us being right. So. Alrighty.
That is like the best, the glass is half full, half empty take. I love that, dude. We got a 100% chance of one of us being right. That's great. So, but all right, Evan. Thanks, man. Can't wait to see what kind of view you have next week.
I'm enjoying it. Thank you, Fitz. Thank you, everybody.
All right, thanks, everyone.